Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to Kansas City. It's great to see everyone here, and phone calls are great, but it's much better to get together and share ideas like we're going to be doing here this week. We've been honored in Kansas City to moderate the peer network calls, and I'd like to especially thank John Pajor, KC BizCare Manager, for his dedication in facilitating the presenters on those calls and ensuring the topics are useful and relevant to your work in your cities. So thank you, John. And I'd also like to thank Emily Robbins and Christy McFarland. Is Christy here? Okay, okay. At the National League of Cities, and then John again for their tremendous effort in planning this event, bringing this together, and lining up the program that we have for you here over the next couple of days. And of course, thank you to the Kauffman Foundation for providing this incredible venue for our summit. Kauffman Foundation is completely focused on fostering entrepreneurship globally, and we're lucky to have this organization in Kansas City. As we've seen, cities are in a unique position to provide support to our small business and entrepreneurial communities. So I thank all of you for your insights you've been provided over the last year on our calls. Sorry. We've learned much in these calls. I'm looking forward to meeting all of you today and tomorrow. And now I'd like to introduce Antoinette Samuel, Deputy Director of the National League of Cities. Thank you, Tony, for the incredible support and insight your staff's provided the summit. The Peer Network and this summit are examples of the powerful public-private partnership cities and the NLC can create to inform the research at NLC and showcase best practices of our cities. So, thank you.
Well, good afternoon, and actually it's I who should thank you. It's our pleasure to be here, and several people had asked me had I ever been to Kansas City, because in our travels with NLC, that is the business we're in, and we go to quite a number of cities, but I can't recall that I've ever made it to Kansas City. But just the little that I've seen and experienced, I think I'm really enticed to come back, and so I look forward to coming back at another time and learning more about your wonderful city. So thank you very much, and welcome all of you to this event. It's great, again, to be in Kansas City and to finally make it to what we've been working on for a while now, this Big Ideas for Small Cities Summit. We know that a lot of you have been working together, and you have colleagues in the room that you've worked with through the Big Ideas Peer Network. And I also want to express my appreciation also for Rick Usher and for John Pajor, who I just met today, but I can understand why there's so much happening in Kansas City, because you have two people who are quite enthusiastic and knowledgeable. And so, Mayor, you're very very good to have such a wonderful staff working for you and working on the behalf of your wonderful city. So thank them for their work today, as well as in all of the support you provided to the Peer Network. And also, as I mentioned, if you look around, you'll see a number of city staff colleagues who have joined us today. We're very pleased that we have about 18 cities represented in the meeting the next couple of days from across the country, who are all working on the same common goal, and that is to support the growth of small business and entrepreneurship in their communities. And if I may have a moment of also special privilege to also thank Christy McFarland, who's on her way from the airport, and Emily Robbins, who also have worked on this this meeting, but also in NLC, leading NLC's event as we try to support entrepreneurship and small business development in cities, and also in supporting our national network and our peer network around small business. So thanks to those two staff people who are also very enthusiastic about not only this meeting, but the whole NLC effort around supporting small business. So we look forward to the discussions that we're going to have over the next few days. And our hope is that you can leave the summit also with some new ideas, as well as you're bringing those ideas that have come from your particular communities to share with your peers. And we'll hope that after you leave this meeting, that the friends and colleagues that you've made, that you've been introduced during the next couple of days, that you'll also use them as a resource as you start to look at these issues, continue to work on these issues in the future. We're visiting Kansas City, I believe, in a wonderful time, and we were having a conversation that we think is a wonderful time for cities across our nation. The vitality and the energy and the growth that we're experiencing in cities, I think, is just wonderful to see, and of course is near and dear to the heart of the National League of Cities. But in particular, it's wonderful to see that vitality and that entrepreneurship happening in Kansas City. And that under the leadership of your mayor, Mayor Sly James, who was once, I understand, a small business entrepreneur and owner himself, I think brings a knowledge to this effort and an appreciation for the efforts in terms of growing small business. And so we're very fortunate to have such a supporter in Mayor James. So towards that goal, I think Mayor James has already done a lot in the city in terms of streamlining processes at City Hall to encourage small business development. No easy task, I'm sure. And also is creating a culture of innovation throughout city government, and most recently exemplified through the, I think, the creation of a position called the Chief Innovation Officer. I'm very interested in talking more with the mayor about that and perhaps getting the job description. Sort of innovation is also a theme in terms of our research and our NLC University that we're starting to look at how innovation is infused in cities, but we think we should walk the talk and see how we can also infuse innovation within the National League of Cities. So this type of position we're also interested in developing within the National League of Cities. So I'm interested in your experience, Mayor, in that area. So during your visits to the 1 Million Cups Challenge and the Crossroads Arts District, I believe that you're going to be able to see firsthand why the city is such a great place to convene and talk about supporting business owners and entrepreneurship. However, I think you don't have to just sort of take my assessment of this. We're very, very fortunate, as I mentioned, to have someone who understands small business and who is providing executive leadership around this area of small business development in Kansas City, and that's the mayor himself, who we're very pleased to have here with us today. And so without any further ado, I think you should stop hearing from me and actually hear from someone who can talk quite keenly about what's happening in Kansas City and his support of small business and entrepreneurship in the city of Kansas City. So with that, I'm happy to introduce the mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, Mayor Sly James.
Well, first of all, let me say that although I received credit for some things going on in Kansas City, that I'm predominantly a concept vision guy. I leave the real nuts and bolts work to people like our city manager, Troy Schulte, and to Rick Usher and John Pager and others, Ashley Hand, our Chief Innovation Officer. They're the ones that execute. And because of their execution, wait a minute, I might want to rephrase that. Because of the way that they get things done, we've actually been able to succeed. It is a distinct pleasure to be here with you today and to be in Kansas City. I'm always happy to welcome people to Kansas City. I know that during the All-Star game that we had a couple years back and people came to Kansas City for the first time, I just absolutely loved walking around town and hearing them come up and tell me I had no idea. They had no idea of what Kansas City was and all the things that we had to offer, but they were finding out and they absolutely loved it, and we're always grateful for that. We always like to meet new people, and we always like to know that new people coming into our home are being treated well and enjoy it. You've come to the right place to discuss and share some best practices regarding the support of small businesses and startups. This is something that we do. We do have an idea or two about how to do that. We are by no means exclusive in our thought processes and how to get things done, but we are, I think, in some instances, experimental and cutting edge. We also know a few things about baseball right now. I'm sorry for any Angels fans. I will be sorry for any Baltimore fans. And we'll take whoever comes in the National League, but it'd sure be fun to see St. Louis in there, and we could recreate 1985 and once again kick their butts. I know you've got other things to do than talk baseball, but I haven't had this chance in 29 years. I'm taking it. But while we've been waiting for the team to be on a winning streak, the city's been on a winning streak, and that's a good thing. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that Kansas City has been doing to win like never before. And again, whatever I say is happening in Kansas City that's good, I want to point out that it's happening because of the outstanding people that we have in our city government who make things happen. If it's not happening well, then you can blame me, or even better, blame the city manager. But the good things that are happening because of the quality people that we have working to make them happen. A couple of weeks ago, the New York Times named Kansas City as the place for millennials to be. A week later, the Huffington Post named Kansas City as the coolest city in America. And just this morning, a report came out talking about the best mayors in the country, and yours truly was at the top. Wait a minute. It seems I was mistaken about that last one. Falls under the heading of wishful thinking. But in all seriousness, the rest of it is true, and many, many other things as well. Our city has a ton to talk about right now. Proud to share some of those things with you. They're exciting. Many of those things that we deal with are the ways in which we've been able to engage our entrepreneurial community and to plant those seeds that are growing roots and expanding and growing into large entrepreneurial plants right with us now. As mayor, I'm always committed to finding better ways and innovative ways to support our entrepreneurs locally, and to encourage all mayors that we engage with to do the same in their own cities, to determine how we can best change our city government approach in order to attract, maintain, support, grow entrepreneurs, because at the end of the day, what we're talking about is growing businesses, and at the end of that day, what we're talking about is growing jobs, and at the end of that day, what we're talking about is a happy citizenry. We need to make sure that our citizens have jobs and that they have the opportunities to follow their dreams and to do the things that they want to do with their lives, and to foster an atmosphere of entrepreneurism and innovation and openness, and getting rid of, to some extent, the fear of failure. We will get closer to that nirvana of everybody being able to follow their dreams and succeed. And our governments always need to find better ways to partner with our entrepreneurial community as new knowledge and new economies come online. This is an age of rapid change. I mean, really an age of rapid change. And it's hard to look back on things anymore. Back on those days when I was very happy to get a new 45 or a new album, or to find the right needle for my record player. And then, wow, man, 8 tracks, well, those were a little clumsy compared to those cassettes. And those new CD things, wow. You know what? There used to be record stores on every block. There ain't any record stores now. Everything gets downloaded. Things have changed. And one of the things that's come to mind as a result of the Royals beating the snot out of the Angels in 3 games consecutively, in really great fashion, is to recognize that back when I was really excited in 1985, 2 years out of law school, to see the Royals play, there were people at the game on Sunday who had never seen the Royals in a playoff situation. And then when you think back what was going on in 1985, when you had those phones that you came in the shoebox, and you thought you were cool because you had one, and you walked around with it in a briefcase, and everybody said, now that guy's cool because he's got one of those new phone things. Now, no more. All of that's changed. And as those things change that fast, then city government needs to change with them. A lot of what we do in city government today is based on the decisions that somebody made 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago in response to some stimuli, usually some negative stimuli, corruption, a problem, an issue of liability that came up. Well, let's patch that sucker with some regulations, some processes, some rules. And then we had the unintended consequences of those patches, and we patched those with more regulations, processes, and rules. And then we patched some more, and now we've got this big patchwork. It impedes his ability to get things done. It impedes our ability to get things done sometimes. And what the world really wants now is an immediate solution to a problem. They don't want to wait 6 years. They want to know now, I've got a problem today, can you help me today? All right? That's what we need to be doing. Entrepreneurs often describe their interactions with city government as basically licensing and regulatory things of that nature, but that does need to change. We need to be more expansive than that. We need to be the creative driver. Municipalities can do that, I believe, and we need to partner with our entrepreneurial enterprises and process. Embracing entrepreneurship means accepting change and a little bit of disruption in everyday life. Not everything works smoothly, but if we're willing to accept a little disruption, we can start to move that needle forward. It also means not being afraid to step outside the box, and frankly, we need to stop thinking about this box. Everybody's got this box that we want to step outside of it. There really is no box. We need to create a box if we're going to step outside of it. The box is gone. That's what we used to say. Now we need to be talking about how we never get into a box because we're looking at open fields of ideas as opposed to little boxes of ideas. Here in Kansas City, we've been working hard to get that type of thing done. We've made it a priority to inform entrepreneurs that we're open for business, that we and our stakeholders throughout the area intend to create a good, positive, and efficient environment in which they can work and grow. And we're doing all this by looking at incentives for businesses differently. We're strategically building the type of city that businesses want to be in and that businesses can succeed in. And we have a very vibrant downtown right now. We have $800, $900 million of new investment online around the startup streetcar line downtown. A lot of that investment was driven by the presence of the streetcar, and a lot of it was driven by the demand for residential living downtown, where we have grown from about 2002 from about 5,000 downtown residents to now with about 25,000 residents, and growing still. It's the largest growing area of the city. More residences coming online, brand new residential tower coming online for the first time since 1985, if I'm not mistaken, with more on the way. So things are happening downtown. It's part of our recruitment package. It's what we want to show to new talent coming into town. This is what we're doing, and make sure that they know that they can live, work, and play within a few blocks of each other and get to other places fairly easily as well. We also have Launch KC, our Launch KC initiative. And last year, our EDC, our Economic Development Corporation, recognizing the opportunities that Google Fiber brought and would bring, began convening meetings with local entrepreneurs of varying backgrounds and experience to determine what they needed and how they could best utilize Google Fiber. You have to understand, when Google came to Kansas City, which means that, and no offense, they didn't come to your city, but when Google came to Kansas City, what they did was they brought us a puzzle. And the puzzles that we normally get when we go to Target and want to get something for a birthday present or a Christmas present always has a picture of what the finished product will look like. So you get your pieces and you're always aiming to make that picture. Well, Google's puzzle came in a brown paper bag. Didn't even bother to put it in a box. And then somehow convinced us that we were real lucky to get the bag full of pieces that we didn't know how to fit. There was no color on them. We just had to figure out, how does this piece fit with the next piece? And it took a lot of people to do that. And since Kansas City, Kansas had the same brown paper bag, they had part of it, we had part of it, we got together and started working together to figure out, how does this puzzle work? We're still putting pieces together, but we're starting to get a much better picture of how the puzzle comes together. And one of the things I can tell you that's making Kansas City really dynamic right now is an attitude that we have found that working collaboratively together gets big things done. Working separately doesn't do much of anything. We have to be open to the concept that even though it's not my idea, it still could be a very good idea. And we embrace it, and we work just as hard on somebody else's ideas and concepts as we do on our own, because we know at the end of the day that by doing that, we're going to succeed together. And that is one of the main things that's happened in Kansas City in the last few years is there's been an attitude change. An attitude that says we can get things done, where it used to be, quite honestly, that somebody would suggest something and the first response was, well, we can't do that. How are we supposed to get that done? Now it's not even that. We don't wait for people to ask. We start with the question of what if? And when you're thinking about what if, everything is open. There is no box. It's just one simple question, one simple change in our attitude and our approach. So you can see that when we came up with ideas to better serve the city, we weren't just brainstorming at our desk. We were brainstorming with a lot of other people over a drink or at a ball game, at a desk, in a business space, at Launch KC, wherever the heck it was, pulling ideas out of the air and seeing if they had any potential. We're now a community that asks people to get involved. We want to see what they do. We want them to see what we do, and we want to work together. And we do this because we know that in order for our programs to succeed and to be successful for a certain group of people, those people have to be involved in the process as we're putting it together. No longer can you walk up to somebody and say, look at this nice thing we made for you. They may or may not like it. But if you bring them in and say, what can we make together that would benefit you? Then they own a piece of it, and what the product is at the end is significantly more useful and utilitarian. In many cases, what we did and with our Launch KC initiative was guided by entrepreneurs. They're the ones who gave us the roadmap as to how to get from A to Z. They focused, and we focused on elements of collaboration with them, capacity, mobility, opportunity, and innovation with our entrepreneurs. And we were willing and able to listen to them and see what we could do to satisfy their needs. And that's all in an effort to attract and retain entrepreneurs to our city. One focus of Launch KC is a detail that's often overlooked, and that's mentorship. So that's what came about with Launchpad KC, which is a component of Launch KC. And Launchpad KC is basically pairs creative entrepreneurs with established businesses for those businesses to mentor them through the process of developing a viable business. And that may include providing them with workspace or information or resources that they would otherwise not necessarily have. In addition to Launch KC, there are some other parallel initiatives for entrepreneurs as well. We have a very vibrant open data portal. And while I'm on this, let me just comment on one aspect of city government that I'm very grateful for. You know, it's easy to talk about what city government should do, but city government is a complicated machine. Often it's not even like a ship, because a ship generally only has one captain. But a city government usually has at least 2 or 3, sometimes 2 or 3 real ones and 14 or 15 pretend ones. But my co-captain over here, the city manager, is the person who has day-to-day responsibility for the administrative aspects of this city. If he wasn't open to innovative ideas and processes, nothing would happen. They'd simply wait me out. So the good news is we've got a guy here who is very open to doing things differently, because he and I both realize that today's city is not our grandfather's city. And our city is not going to be our kids' city. And if we want this city to be viable, we've got to be looking at the city for our kids, not us, but for those coming in the next 20 years. And if we shoot for that goal, we're going to be in good shape. So once again, I thank Troy for being a good co-driver and a person that welcomes change and works with his administration to see that that change is implemented. We're now investing in our well, let me get back to the open data. Because our open data creates opportunities for entrepreneurs to grab information from the city without having to go through some stilted process. It's there. It's on the net. All you got to do is access it, and you can pull what you want. You can pull it out, manipulate it, and see how it helps you with whatever you're trying to do. And oftentimes, offer some suggestions to us on how we might become even more efficient. We have an innovative partnerships program where entrepreneurs in the proof of concept stage can test that product with our city. So if there's an entrepreneur who has, for example, movable concrete sections or movable asphalt sections of a street and they need a test ground or demonstration place, they can work with us and make Kansas City the test ground or the demonstration place. Why wouldn't we want to do that? You've got an idea that's tangible and can be used or does something different, let's see what happens. And if we work with them, they're much more likely to stay here than they are to move someplace else. We're investing in homegrown talent. We like homegrown talent. Folks who already live in Kansas City, already love the community, already willing to stay here, and who are invested here. We continue to look at the internationally known Kauffman Foundation as a partner and a friend and a place for best practices. Kauffman Foundation provides resources and policy recommendations on the impact of entrepreneurs to the city's economy, on how to enhance entrepreneurial skills and training, and on the best methods to improve the environment for homegrown and high-growth startups. That includes the 1 Million Cups program that started here at the Kauffman Center. It started with a few people meeting for coffee. And now you can't get into the room for 1 million cups. Not only that, they've exported the concept to over 40 cities are now having 1 million cups programs. So they must be doing something right if all these cities want to come and start their own. The proof of the value of things like 1 million cups comes in the creative thinking and the environment here. We don't just talk the talk and walk the walk. We're trying to lead the way, and that's important for us. Another thing that we're doing that's helpful to our entrepreneurial environment and our small business environment is Code for America. We're a Code for America fellow. They had a great time here, and here's a very interesting thing about it. When we pitched, Joe Reardon was the mayor of Kansas City, Kansas, and we were at U.S. Conference of Mayors, and Jen Palka, the CEO of Code for America, was there. And so Joe and I, two mayors from two separate cities, divided by a line or a river, pitched the concept to Jen of working with both cities simultaneously in partnership. That had never been done, according to her, and it was intriguing. And it worked out well for all of us combined because, once again, we found a way to work together to accomplish some very distinct goals, and that was a cool thing. If you don't know, Code for America often helps governments become more connected, leaner, more participatory through more opportunities for public discourse and communication, both inside and outside the city government itself. Fostering relationships with groups like those is really a key to our success. The city of Kansas City has also been focused on thinking entrepreneurially inside city government, not just out. We've got to change our thought processes to match up with our entrepreneurs outside. So I was very pleased that we were able to hire Ashley Hand as the first female Chief Innovation Officer in the country. And I think that the manager and I would both agree she is phenomenal in doing what she does. And Ashley will be here today. You'll hear from her. And I invite you to quiz her about how great Troy and I are. And we'll have one of our officers standing near so that you get the right answers. But I invite you to quiz Ashley about some of the things she does and how she does it, because she has been absolutely phenomenal in working inside of our city government. One of the things that Ashley does is that she works across departments. She doesn't work inside a department. She works across departments to tear down those silos and walls. to find ways to solve complex problems within city government and find more efficiencies. And that requires that those departments work together on a number of scales. At one point, we had 2 different agencies doing essentially the same thing. Our code was divided so that our code enforcement officers would say that the fence was bad, and then the other group would say that it was too high. Well, when we could have just had one going out and saying the fence is too bad and too high and getting it fixed, as opposed to having to have 2 separate groups come together on one issue. Those are the types of things that grow up in city governments that you don't often think about. And the reason that we found that out was because of KC Stat, which is what we had this morning for 2.5 hours with Economic Development and our Convention and Visitors Association and our entrepreneurial group, of which Rick was there, and Maria Myers and John was there. Was it John Shackelford? Jeff Shackelford. We're all there. And we talked about these things for 2.5 hours. But the focus of KC Stat is to create a measurable matrix of what's going on, how we can make it better, what resources need to be brought to bear, how do we measure success, those types of things in the way that we deliver services or engage in economic development. And one of the things that we found out is that by bringing different departments to meet together, hey, gee, you know, you guys do that too? Well, if we did this, we could probably do it differently and better. So we're breaking down those walls, more internal collaboration. She's currently working on developing a technology roadmap for the city to combine apps, centralize information found on various websites, to streamline our processes and storing information. She is also engaged in the Mayor's Challenge Cabinet. Mayor's Challenge Cabinet are a group of relatively younger people who are technologically inclined or who are engaged in a startup business or who are engaged in some form of business, and they come together to look at various aspects of our city government and to challenge it, thus the Challenge Cabinet. And it's a great thing to do for not only that purpose, but also a great thing to do in order to get the younger group of people, people some of your ages, engaged in a very direct and positive way in city government. In short, we're building our bench strength of leadership. We're getting them engaged so that they know how city government works and they are become very familiar with it, and then they can follow their goals of being engaged at whatever level they want. But the idea is to turn out and create more informed and intelligent citizens. We come to follow their lead on some of the things in the city. But I can't stress enough how important it is to actually engage the younger set, the entrepreneurs, the millennials in the city itself, because at the end of the day, they're going to be running it. We may as well hear now what they're wanting to look for and start to try to find ways to incorporate it, because everybody in this room knows that just because you have a good idea doesn't mean it's going to be implemented in the immediate future. It takes time. Many of the decisions that we make are based on feedback that we get from our citizens, and our citizen satisfaction survey provides us with a great deal of information in that regard. It's very clear that we're doing a lot of things here, and I certainly can't tell you all of them, and I certainly can't take credit for many of them at all. I will once again tell you that but for the excellent city staff and employees that we have, these things would not be getting done. But for the good, pragmatic, working partnership that we have with the city manager in my office and the council, these things would not be getting done. And but for our willingness to step out of the comfort of our offices and engage people who will challenge what we do every day and be willing to listen to them, be willing to engage with them, be willing to try to implement some of the things that they say that we should do, these things would not be happening. So at the end of the day, the best big idea for small business that I can give is to engage with them on every level, be willing to be a small business yourself so that you can experience what they're talking about And by doing that, you will understand and internalize that some things might need to be changed, other things might need to be strengthened, but all things need to be shared. Thank you very much for having me. Very much appreciated.